On October 24th, 2023, we'll finally be seeing a bunch of Metal Gear Solid games come into modern consoles for the first time with the MGS Master Collection Volume 1. I had initially planned to get the collection on the Nintendo Switch, but unfortunately I've been a little disappointed to hear that the games have been locked at 30 frames per second on the console, so I may have to re-evaluate that decision. But the reason I wanted to get the collection on the Switch is so that I could take Metal Gear on the go with me. However, this certainly won't be the first time I've been able to play MGS games on the go. In fact, MGS has a pretty long history of appearing on a range of handheld gaming devices over the years, stretching all the way back to the Game Boy Color. It's genuinely insane to me that they managed to create a Metal Gear Solid game for the Game Boy Color, otherwise known as Metal Gear Ghost Babel in certain regions. It's a shame that the game is pretty unheard of among the community, as from what I've played of it, it's a pretty decent game, and probably one of the best of the Game Boy Color catalogue. I'd really love to see the game turn up in a future volume of an MGS Master Collection, as I could definitely see this game having a resurgence among the fanbase if it was made easily accessible. The gameplay is much like the Metal Gear MSX titles and has a beautiful retro Game Boy Color art style, which I think has aged quite well. But I feel portable MGS games really didn't blow up until the PSP, as the hardware gave the developers the ability to come a lot closer to how Metal Gear felt on a home console. Although saying that, the first Metal Gear game that was released was actually Metal Gear Acid, which is nothing like any other MGS game, as far as I'm aware. I feel like Acid had an initial backlash which it never truly recovered from, as mixing Metal Gear with a tactics card game was certainly not what I or many others expected when first playing it back in the day. But I must say, playing it all these years later with the knowledge of what the game is, I actually quite enjoy it and think people should give it another chance. The stories are a bit meh, but they almost had something with the gameplay, and I wouldn't mind seeing a possible sequel or reboot of that series. But for me, it was Portable Ops which truly felt like I had a proper Metal Gear Solid game in my pocket. I know people get a little bit funny about Portable Ops, especially when it comes to its canonical status and only being produced by Kojima, but I played the hell out of this game when it first came out. I was so excited to continue the Big Boss story after the tragic ending of MGS 3, and it felt incredible to see a younger Roy Campbell and Frank Yeager, even if it didn't exactly work for the overall storyline. Plus, this was the first game to have cutscenes illustrated by Ashley Wood, which works so well for the limited hardware of the PSP. And to top it all off, there was even an online mode. I sadly missed out on Metal Gear Online for MGS 3 and 4, so Portable Ops Online was my jam. Again, I know Portable Ops isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I think it influenced the series more than people give it credit for. There's a lot of ideas in this game which Kojima developed upon in Peace Walker and even MGS 5. But speaking of Peace Walker, this for many people is the pinnacle of portable MGS games, and for good reason. The way this game simplified the controls of MGS really was a precursor to the gameplay of MGS 5. From a gameplay perspective, it's a lot stronger than Portable Ops, despite how much I love that game. It also utilised the Ashley Wood art style for its cutscenes, and had a pretty decent storyline to boot, especially with the development of the Big Boss character. Portable Ops introduced the idea of recruiting, or rather kidnapping soldiers to join your army, but it was painfully tedious having to drag their unconscious bodies back to your truck every time. Adding the Fulton recovery system in Peace Walker was a genius idea to quicken the recruitment of soldiers, and again made its way into MGS 5. I know for a lot of fans, Peace Walker is in their top 3 MGS games, if not their favourite, which is seriously impressive considering the limited hardware of the PSP. We also can't forget the Metal Gear Solid digital graphic novel released for the PSP. I only recently played this for the first time on my PS Vita. I had read the physical graphic novels prior to playing this game, so I wasn't expecting to get much out of the digital graphic novel. But I have to admit, the little animations, sound effect, and background music really do bring the graphic novel to life. They tried to throw some gamification into it by allowing you to scan frames of the graphic novel for information about characters and whatnot. But overall, this is simply a visual novel retelling of the first Metal Gear Solid. I found it to be just a nice chilled experience, so I'm looking forward to diving back into these in the MGS Master Collection, which also includes the sequel digital graphic novel. But one of the biggest delights for me in the history of MGS on portable devices has to be the MGS HD collection for the PS Vita. I didn't get a PS Vita until about 2018, which is not really much of a shock if you know anything about the commercial failure of the console. But I may have not picked it up if it wasn't for the fact that I could play MGS 2 and 3 on the go, as well as the original Metal Gear Solid and many of the PSP titles. The PS Vita was literally an MGS machine for me. To this day, I still can't believe that this console can play MGS 2 and 3, albeit with a couple of downgrades with the frame rate, resolution and controls. But once I'm playing them, I really don't care about those drawbacks. But while it is awesome that they managed to port those games, I've always been a little gutted that the PS Vita never got an exclusive title. Something that took advantage of the PS Vita's gimmicks a little bit, such as the rear touchpad or cameras. Perhaps another chapter in the Big Boss story before 5, or it could have been a golden opportunity to remake the original Metal Gear as well as Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. I would have even taken a non-canon spin-off like Acid, but it's way past that ever happening, so no point in dwelling on it for too long, I guess. One game that I never played but keep meaning to get around to is MGS 3 for the 3DS. Again, I'm blown away that they even managed to do a port of this game to that handheld. While the game takes a pretty massive hit graphically and performance wise, the gameplay has always looked incredible from what I've seen. It's like Peace Walker meets MGS 3 with how you aim and move in the game. There have also been some MGS games for mobile which I missed out on. However, I recently checked out Metal Gear Studies video about the non-canon MGS games, where they showed gameplay for Metal Gear Solid Mobile, and I was quite impressed with the footage. So go check out their channel for some great MGS content. While it's great that MGS games are coming to the Switch, I do look back on the history of portable MGS games with a sense of fondness and nostalgia. Yes, the games aren't necessarily perfect, but I love that the limited hardware offered the developers a challenge, requiring them to get creative with how they brought Metal Gear Solid onto a handheld device. It's kind of sad to think that we'll probably never get an exclusively handheld MGS game again, now that handheld gaming has finally reached home console quality levels. But I do hope we get to see these portable games in the next Master Collection volume, as they deserve to be preserved and experienced by new fans, or just fans who missed out the first time round. But what do you think of the Metal Gear Solid portable games? Do you have any fond memories with a particular title, or are you interested in playing them if they are ported to modern consoles? Let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.